Hey, what's good? What's good? What's good? You know what it is. It's your boy Trey. Sorry about yesterday. Had a quick emergency had to get to for the short broadcast. But you know what it is. We're back, ready to go. You know, let's get it.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward!
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward!
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go.
Forward!
Hard work, hard work, hard work.
Fall in. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's your boy Trey, and you know what it is. First Formation Morning Sports Talk. Come on and fall in with us as we get into talk about some of the topics that went over the course of the last 24, 48, 72. It don't make a difference. We're going to talk about it. So, of course, a lot going on yesterday. Sorry for the disconnect. Had to drop off the air real quick and take care of handle some business, but everything is all good. Here we are. We're back and ready to go. I don't foresee any discrepancies or anything going on today. So we didn't get to cover a couple of topics yesterday. No, doesn't make a difference kind of right now, but we will be able to talk about the NBA playoffs. As we know, today's first round kicks off with the play in. We get a chance to discuss how it went down yesterday with the Women's National Basketball Association. Y'all know the WNBA, the W as they call, had their draft last night. 3 rounds of picking some of the top talent across the women's spectrum in sports, round ball. So we get to that in a little bit. What's good? What's going on, Coach Uriah? Glad to have information with us this morning. Of course, we still got a little couple of things brewing in the NFL. Even that's been going on. You know, at the end of the month, just like the National Military Basketball Tournament is going to be going on in San Antonio, Texas. Shout out to all the teams that's going to send there in the on and around the Alamo Riverwalk. Um, but on the opposite side, or in the Midwest, with part of the country, that region, the NFL draft for 2023 is going to be going down, of course, during that same time. So you get to see some of the top players in in military basketball compete. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you get to see where your favorite team drafts and picks up for them to be able to compete. So it's a whole weekend, a whole vibe, just a couple of weeks away. But let's get into it. Last night, like I said, the women's basketball National Basketball Association was on center stage as they looked to usher in the new perspectives, the new prospective stars for the league upcoming. 3 rounds last night. Of course, we just tap in a little bit with that first round. Of course, the first round is always usually the most enduring round, although it doesn't necessarily mean that all these is going to be the top tier players for this draft, but a lot of talent taken. Of course, the overall pick went to the Indiana Fever. And of course, once it was announced that the star from last year's National NCAA Women's Championship was going to be available as she forgot her last year to with the South Carolina Gamecocks. No one other than Aaliyah Boston taking number one overall by the Indiana Fever. Now there was plenty of cleaning up to do because there was a lot of there was one particular team that had a high amount of drafts picks as they wheeled and deal is unprecedented. 12. There's only 12 selections in the round. Dallas Mavericks had 3 of those 12 selections. With their selections, they select at 3 Maddie Sigris from Villanova. Linebacker, she gets buckets. Lou Lopez, Seneschal from Connecticut. And last but not least, in the 11th pick Abby Myers out of Maryland for those 3 selections in the first round. Of course, finishing up that number 2 overall, the Minnesota Lynx were able to select Maryland's Diamond Miller as the to run the guard position. The Washington Mystics contribute Stephanie Soares from Iowa State. The Atlanta Dream at the 6th pick, Haley Jones out of Stanford. If Haley's been there, actually a pretty good friend with Aaliyah Boston. Not a big pickup. The Indiana Fever had a 2nd pick in the first round where they selected Grace Berger out of Indiana. Atlanta Dream, Letitia Amir here from South Carolina. Seattle Storm, as you know, they're doing a rebuild, so to speak. They do have a diamond in Jewel Lloyd. However, they were able to pick up Jordan Horston out of Tennessee, a dog in so she's ready to go. The lovely Los Angeles Sparks picked up Zaya Cook out of South Carolina. And then last but not least, the 12th pick in the round was Mia Horst, a 19-year-old out of France, 6'5" center. Actually, so that's interesting. That's more of a pick and stash. Coach Uriah, 5 picks from South Carolina. Crazy they had that much talent. So, Coach, it's interesting you say that, right? So I kept on looking and seeing and watching and looking and seeing and watching. And it's like, yo, South Carolina, like you said, South Carolina had that talent. I understand tournaments happen. It's only one game, one given moment. I kept on relenting in my head, like South Carolina has all this talent, but they weren't the champions. Every time I looked up, of course, they always point out and give the accolades, but everything kept saying the 2022, 2021 NCAA champions. And not to take anything from them, of course, but that was what I kept on playing in my head. Like, yo, they're like all this talent is leaving. Is it a point to where Dawn Staley and her staff are going to be able to potentially, or in any way, form, or fashion, be able to reincarnate what they had this year or even the year or last year, to give them an opportunity to basically get back to that plateau? It remains to be seen, but like Coach Uriah was saying, South Carolina, 3 players, 3 out of 12 gone in the first round, and then 2 others over the course of the next 2 rounds, with Bria Bale going 12th overall. Going 24th overall to the Minnesota Lynx, defensive stalwart. I was hoping that the Los Angeles Sparks would have picked her up with their 14th pick in the second round, but they took Shanice Swain out of Australia. Other notable names, Alexis Morris, going 22nd to the Connecticut Sun. And then, of course, I got to give a shout out to the sisters from USC, those that were selected, 2 women selected from USC. The Phoenix Mercury get Katie Sisco, and the New York Liberty picked just after that at the 30th slot, Keiko Adika from Beaufort out of Southern California. So we get to see how they go. But, of course, Aaliyah Boston in Indiana, opportunity to build them. As we know, Indiana hasn't been that successful, but and then the Dallas Wings have an opportunity to be the Dallas team, to bring some type of notoriety to the Dallas area, that in which the Cowboys nor the Mavericks have been able to do. Okay, Don does well, reload, but LSU is, I feel, one a year early. LSU will be much better next year. So basically, Coach, you're saying, think the expectation, in your opinion, is LSU would be what South Carolina was last year or this past year. They'll be the dominant presence to where we're going to be looking at them. Expectancy is they're going to run the table the whole year just to finish up the season at the end of the year. You got Paige coming back to UConn. You might have Caitlin Clark on a sniper mission to reinvent. So it's going to be definitely a season, in my opinion, to look forward to for the women's national basketball at college, particularly. I'm ready to see Juju get it in. USC, let's go Trojans. It's going down. What's good, Alonzo? Glad to have you. Permission this morning, brother. Next year, no, she has to rebuild compared to what Tyler stayed in certain places. True, and that's one of the things I found out, Alonzo. If she has enough, I mean, it's going to be one thing to recruit. Can she with LSU and what they did? Kim Mulkey showing her prominence. Is that enough to where John Staley would be able to scout and pick and get the players that she needs to rebuild and go? Of course, like you was just saying, Alonzo, the transfer portal is a problem. The player, what's up, girl from that's transferring? Oh man, her name's Swan. So you got people on the transfer. Where does she go? Does she go to LSU? Does she go to South Carolina? Does she go anywhere else? All this, of course, going on. It's going to be a pretty interesting offseason, especially the transfer portal makes it nice and juicy, spicy, as my man Ron would say. Transfer portal we use with the current ladies in the portal, March Madness, one game, with perfect game plan for South Carolina, regardless of South Carolina's talent. What's good, Jackie? Good morning. How you doing? Glad to have your information with us this morning. I hope your morning is getting pretty good. Van Lith, there you go. Appreciate it, Alonzo. Van Lith, she probably the big darling in the transfer portal to see where she's going to go. Where can she go to make a graduate on a graduate program to set up and better her stock potentially for next year's WNBA draft. Just depending on where she goes to make a team better. So it's going to go down. There you go. Appreciate it, gentlemen. Yeah, Haley Van Lith, Louisville. That's right. Appreciate it, Coach. Yes, she's gonna, and which is crazy. Like vying for, it's like free agency. That's what it is. It's like vying to get in position. Now does she get in position? Where do y'all think she was going? Lonzo, Coach Uriah, anyone else that's after watching? If you were to wait, if you had a crystal ball, where do you think Van Lith will end up, or where do you think would be the most beneficial for her to end up at as she wants to continue with her career? They can come out in the draft this year. Was going to wait an extra year, use that graduate year, and with some eligibility to continue to compete. Where do you think she's going, or where would you go if you were Haley at this point? The world is your oyster. Let me see. Moving on. UConn, really, Alonzo? You think you know what, Coach? I didn't think about that, but to tap into USC with Juju, I love it. I like that idea. I would thought that y'all would have gone with the barrel full of riches in in LSU or South Carolina, but I can get down with that. UConn also, I thought additionally, I thought y'all would have looked at her teaming up with UConn. Yeah, her and Paige, that might be a hell of a problem. But I thought, or even her to go tap in to take some of the pressure off Caitlin in Iowa. But we'll see. I'm very sure he's gonna come out. Yeah, Paige. Yeah, once Paige get back and get healthy again. Yeah. Post players along with athleticism and incoming players. I see you, Alonzo, which on your recruiting ish, not bad at all. So it's definitely going to be interesting. That the portal makes a world of difference, and we seeing it starting to creep into the other the aspect of sports in with men and women when it comes down to the college ranks. Going to be interesting. I mean, I guess I can't say anything other than it is going to be a hella interesting. The NILs, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm ready for it to keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it, indeed. So, of course, the WNBA was kicked that off. I guess you could say kicked off the playoff. As you know, they work in tandem, NBA, WNBA. A couple of things even came out yesterday in reference to the WNBA. As we know, although if you paid attention, if you look at after the last couple of years, there's always been a conversation in reference to what is or what isn't in the when it comes down to the quality and the way things, how the women are treated uh, in the NBA, I mean, in the WNBA. So a couple of things were talked about yesterday. As one, the women will, and I, I feel a certain type of way because to sit up and talk about this is like, is this news or saying to sit up and reveille in this and the fact? But of course, now the women will be afforded the opportunity to get chartered flight travel when they go to and from their destinations during at the beginning of the season. So they will have chartered flights for travel. The regular season they will have regular season back-to-back games. Of course, they will continue with the Commissioner Cup Championship within it's a in-season tournament and for all play games. So that is what they want to get received for their playing, wide playing. And additionally, their playoff will be a series where it'd be a 3-game series for the first round, 5-game series for the second round, and then of course the championship game will be a 5-game series as well. So of course WNBA looking to try to make some strides to continue to better their game and to start to give more of a plateau to a degree as than what their counterparts in the men. So speaking of the men, as we know, we're getting ready to get into the postseason of the NBA championship. 16 games is all you need to hoist up that trophy. 16 games won is all you need to hoist up that trophy at the end of the season, in which it could come in a different array. You can go 28. You can play 28 to win those 16, or you can just walk through and get all 16. I don't know. Has there been a team ever to just sweep through the whole tournament, 16 games for sweep every team? I don't think so. Not yet. I had to do my get my math done, check that. Additionally, I think we talked about it yesterday. Excuse me. I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday. Unfortunately, which I ain't gonna say I called it. I guess anyone could have said it. Even Stevie Wonder could have seen it potentially happen. It's not likely, or it's possible that the Houston Rockets are going to part ways with Coach Steven Silas. Unfortunately, the Houston Rockets declined his 5th-year option or his the option to pick him up. It's unfortunate. I don't know if it's fair when you look at it for coaches out there, or when you just talking about when these coaches that be in positions when you're not giving anything really. Maybe they gave him an additional year when you take in consideration they moved James Harden. They brought in John Wall. John Wall sat a whole year. They get him some talent in the kids, I guess you could say, with Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, all these players, young talent. They move veteran presence in Eric Gordon. Was he set up for success? Did they give him enough time to basically erect that ship at the end of the day? Does this usually come in the point to where when you take a look at it is you have a coach that was up and coming that had a setback and set himself, got himself removed to open up the door for yet another coach to come in and be productive and be able to carry the team along. In which we have now Coach Emi Udoka, who may have been forgotten. People is out there, but of course you have already expectative that Coach Udoka is going to be looked at by the Detroit Pistons. So currently, there's already two positions that are up for grabs in the Detroit Pistons and the Houston Rockets. Which one at this point do you think is would be a better fit, especially for a coach like Emi Udoka? Do you think the Rockets and their talent, as Coach Uriah was just saying, Houston Rockets are just too young? Not sure what expectation they want out of Silas. Their best player is Seguin, and he barely touches the basketball. Seagull nuts are. So you're gonna say you have that. So is that, or does the Detroit Pistons look more of a space to go to? They have young talent as well. Added some talent when they made the trade. Son Wiseman going from Golden State to Detroit, and Detroit wasn't looking that bad at that point. So where does it go? It's unfortunate for Coach Silas. Okay, Alonzo, he did a good job with the team, had not enough time, the talent he had, age experience. Correct, he did. It was just a young squad, and he's a young coach, so it's like it seems like it didn't click for him, and it's unfortunate, man. But he had his opportunity. I guess you could say. What's good, Drunk? Glad to have information with this. Of course, Drunk always. Pistons a better fit for him. I'd rather see Udoka coach the Rockets. I think. It's a tough one, man. I know Coach Uriah says the same thing. Says the opposite. The Pistons is the better job. So the talent wise, I think it's a tough one. When you look at the talent, I think for the most part that Coach Udoka, I think Coach Udoka would be able to tap into that talent better and be able to guide them and put them in the position in which he wants. But I think truly enough, when you look at how Detroit is built right now, it probably would be Detroit. They have talent, they have young talent as well, but I think their talent has a little more structure, and is more so built. Like you have Wiseman, you have Bay's not there anymore. Wiseman, Marvin Bagley III. It's young kids who was heralded during their amateur, and they've been in the league for 2 or 3 years now, playing together. Cade Cunningham is there. You got Jaden Ivey. So it's some people that there, and then they're going to be I have an opportunity to bring in more talent to where it's all like a mesh together. So Detroit seems to be a better opportunity, but I think long run, I think Detroit's a better opportunity now, but I think long run the Houston Rockets would be that squad, especially depending on who they pick and how they pick. They might have to trim some fat. I think they might have a little bit of a I gonna say we're not gonna say cancerous, but I think they have to even trim some fat, or someone's gonna have to grow up quick. The most seasoned individual I think they have on that squad is that of Kevin Porter Jr., Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham versus Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. Who you rather coach? Detroit has talent, but that's who states beyond rookie contract. All right, I see you, Lonzo. And then we're gonna get to something else in reference to when we talk about staying beyond rookie contracts. Don't forget about Cade. And Roger, I'm tracking Coach Cade Cunningham. He's there. Basically, Cade Cunningham and some of the players was the reason why they decided to send off the decision they made when they brought in Jeremy Grant, paying him all that money after the Orlando, Florida season. Sent him off to Portland. So I don't know. We'll see. I think what is going to be really a sticking point, or if I was Coach Udoka, what would be the point is to see where these teams end up after the draft. I would give it's going to speak to both teams, although it is only speculated that he has gotten engaged with the Detroit Pistons. But the coach, after Coach Casey steps down, and that could be it too. You can look at who's in your front office and who, saying what type of support you get. Emi Udoka has some some bridge gapping to do, I guess, with the whole situation in which he went through. But he gets an opportunity, right? Everyone to get an opportunity to go ahead and to see where's that. But I would, if it was me, I would basically let both organizations know who I would look at as far as if I was coaching them, and who would I like to have in the trenches with me. And if they're able to pull them in, and then I take a look at it and be like, oh, but just keeping it real, that doesn't guarantee. I have to look at a whole perspective, but where we're at with it and see what teams would get it. Of course, Victor Wembanyama is expected to be the top player. Then you have Miller that's out there, Scoot Henderson, a bevy of talent. Of course, you always have players that are on the cusp, but at some point get an opportunity and they show out, and you be like, "Yo, I didn't even know this kid was this good." So you never know when we get to see it. They might not, the top player in the draft might not even be selected out of those 60 selections. So we'll see it. We'll definitely see. So going back to something which Alonzo was talking about, and when he brought up saying the Detroit talent has to see who stays beyond their rookie contract. So not the Detroit Pistons, but it was an interesting comment I seen to where it discussed coaching in Houston with Porter Jr. and Jalen looks like a nightmare. And I think one of them have to go, Coach. Definitely, I think one of them have to go. Is even they have a huge turnaround and they're able to mesh together and play, or one of them got to go. They got to go get. They got to get some assets for one of them, because both of them, I don't think is going to continue. Is going to mesh too well going forth. They're almost like the same player in a sense. But what definitely, I think one has to go for them to be able to thrive, because I think them against on the same team isn't a good chemistry. Probably so. I think they would too, because he's Kevin Porter Jr. has a bit of a attitude, or that's the stigma. He has an attitude and doesn't want to be taught or teached or told what to do, and so on and so forth. So definitely that. Shout out to Trojan Nation. But so, like I was saying, Alonzo was talking about beyond the contract. So I seen a piece earlier, I think yesterday, as I was doing some research and looking over some things to talk about this morning. And the topic is, if the Charlotte Hornets do not start to win, that LaMelo Ball is going to be a loss to them. That Ball is going to decide not to continue to play for the team, and he's going to be out the door looking for greener pastures elsewhere. What do y'all say? What ye say to this? Does LaMelo Ball continue to stay in or around the Charlotte Hornets, or does he decide to pull up stakes and throw the deuces and go as in the names of LeBron James on to take his talents elsewhere? We see what has happened to his brother, although those weren't his brother's decisions. Well, one was his brother's decision. He is elected to go sign with Chicago, but he was traded from Los Angeles to the Pelicans, and then from the Pelicans, he decided to go, when he had an opportunity, free agency, he decided to go sign with the Chicago Bulls. So LaMelo Ball, probably the most talented of the Ball brothers. When you think about it, nothing against LiAngelo, but LaMelo, do you think that's what his mindset would be if and when he becomes a free agent and he's eligible to go ahead and move on, he would go ahead and leave whatever's on the table and throw the deuces? Or do you think money will be enough to keep him in place, and the expectancy of them adding some better talent around him and going on from there? We already know Michael Jordan's looking to sell his stake in the team to so he can remove himself from being the owner. Was that insightful? What being under the tutelage or being able to see Mike in the building, maybe get some run with him, have a sit down, have a conversation with him on what is best or they think best going forward. So what do y'all think in reference to LaMelo Ball and him staying or going when it comes his time? Do you think he's open to being? When I look at it, I think Damian Lillard. I think Dame Lillard. And do you think he's getting conversations and talking to said players about similar situations? Like, bro, don't waste your youthfulness in a place that's not producing. And then you have that a lot of stuff. It just brings you back to taking a look at a whole bunch of players, even currently, that are in places to aren't developing, aren't building. Bradley Beal comes to mind. He's been in Washington, and Washington hasn't amounted to anything. When John Wall got out of there, Bradley Beal was expected to take the reins, and a couple of injuries here and there, but look where he's at. They brought in Kristaps Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, but look where he's at currently. At one point, that was Russell Westbrook. Who else do we have that are players that's the ultimate Damian Lillard. That might be it potentially when I first think about it. Yeah, we might be able to say that. The LaMelo Ball is exciting too. What's good, Coach Africa? What's going on, brother? Glad to see you formation. How's everything over across those waters? Hoping everything is going good, brother. Let us know if you need anything. So you just have developed yet? Okay. I think he says one contract and started and then leaves. More developing, basically. He needs to be flowered. What's good, Coach? What's going on? What's going on? Glad to have you formation this morning, brother. Unfortunately, sorry about that. The situation. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem at all. Sorry about the situation in Dallas, man. That's unfortunate. Now y'all have to rebuild, retool. Does that rebuild or retool include Jason Kidd being out, or does Jason Kidd get another chance, another year? He said, "Paul, I'm out." It remains to be seen. Where does I mean, I know it's a little presumptuous, but what is the best for? Get him off you, Coach Cal. Get him off you, man. Get him off you. Oh goodness. But where do you think would be an ideal place for Ball in his current talent? Like Coach Uriah, I'm not Coach Uriah. Coach Hunter just said, Coach Uriah, yeah. He was just saying that he thinks he hasn't developed none yet. Where does he go where he can develop? LaMelo is a poor man's kid, just injury prone. NBA is filled with part-time players. Ooh, I want to see 65 games first before I run. Okay, I got you. All I can do is sit back and wait. I got you, Coach Cal. I got you, man. Kyrie, do you want Kyrie staying or do you want Kyrie to go? Is Charlotte okay? All right, Charlotte. Coach Cal, you want Kyrie to stay or you want Kyrie to go? What can help the Dallas Mavericks at this point? You want to stay? All right. You think they could mesh together? They ain't look too good. Almost 17 games. They was 5% of them. You think with some time in the booth together, training camp, they can mesh together, bring in some more talent, and they'll be good? I know you would probably say give JaVale McGee some more starting time. JaVale McGee, Christian Wood, Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, and Tim Hardaway Jr. That's the starting five you're trying to see? kid Bertrands with the first round pick. Wood, Powell, Talinka, Theo gone. Who y'all getting? First off, QJ needs to admit he made mistakes. That team won't heal with him blaming everyone for his mistakes. Jason Kidd is not the answer in Dallas. Who I'm like at this point, who is out there in y'all opinion? Calvin, bro, it's called Dirk Pack. Who is out there at this point? Like the coaching carousel. Are we looking at top player talent? Are you looking at grabbing some of those coaches that went ahead and called the quits on the sidelines in college and seeing if you can lure into the league that way? Of course, like we said, Emi Aduka, of course, probably the most heralded coach right now that's out there to bring in. Do you go back and get some yesteryear talent, cut Sling Low from Kid and bring in Udoka? New voice is needed and hold Luka accountable for a lack of defense. So we always hear the conversation lack of defense. If my trusty cohort was here, he'll probably be talking about the same thing: lack of defense for Luka. If Luka was to improve on his defense, he's not going to get just a lockdown defender in one season. But if he was to do some improvement, maybe cut down a little bit, where do you see a Luka with some defense to go along? How does that improve him? I know it improves the team, but where does that put his stake at this point? If he becomes more of a defensive presence, does that take away from what he does on the offensive end? Is he ready to be that yet where he can still produce at a high clip on the offensive end and be able to hold his own on the defensive end? Kyrie, Luka, Anunoby, Miles Turner. Okay, you talking about going against. All right, I got you, Coach THJ. All right. But yeah, so we always hear about the Luka is that because you gotta look where I look at it as where he was sown and how he was sown. And at this point, he was sown to be an offensive presence, an offensive problem. Luka would be the best player in the league if you bought into. Oh, okay. So you don't think it affect his offensive game at any point if he exerts the energy on the defensive end? Because that's definitely what's gonna go. We know because it's starting to be the stigma that Luka is lacking defense. Of course, we can see it. It doesn't have to necessarily be the stigma. We can take a look and watch and see what he does on the defensive end. Say you want Dame too. And that brings up another question. Dame, do you think finally we have it to where Dame is going to be at this point? Do you think Portland is ready to move on from Dame and Dame ready to move on from Portland? Or do you think they still commit to that loyalty thing and they stay loyal to one another and they continue there? At this point, as an organization, would you move on from Dame Lillard to see what you could bring back? A lot of questions as you come into these this off season. Like, while for does loyalty, I am a loyal person. I tend to sit up and try to do my best to be as fair and concise. But at this point, I'm looking at what my objective as a general manager or a head coach or an owner is to my organization and to bring in the best talent in which I could, in which in terms means I might have to burn a bridge or two because it's not seen as the most the best in decisions. Do I move on from Dame Lillard now at this point? Is it that what we do? You see what happened with LaMarcus Aldridge. They kept him. The best thing they was able to move him to San Antonio. He goes to San Antonio, doesn't have that much of more of a better season. And oddly enough, LaMarcus Aldridge was replaced by Dame Lillard. They basically utilized Dame Lillard. It was days like LaMarcus Aldridge was expendable at that time. Okay, 45-degree hedge, correct. Only from behind as the guy goes by him, where he doesn't get back on defense due to complaining. It's a slap in the face. So of course, it sounds like Coach Cal continues with his campaign to get Coach Kidd removed from the ranks of the sideline. At this point, are y'all basically saying that Jason Kidd has no coaching prowess whatsoever? He's been in New York, he's been in Milwaukee, he's been in Dallas, and then he's been on coaching staffs. But he's been a head coach in New York, Milwaukee, and Dallas. Milwaukee won a championship not too long after he left. New York, I guess you could say, is now recovering with Coach Thibodeau. And then, of course, he's in he's said 45-degree foul every time. Refs don't call that. And then, of course, now he's coached with with the Dallas Mavericks, in which we thought was going to be the best of things, and not so much. Okay, you're saying he's a coach, but not a head coach. He's an assistant coach. Okay, understandable. I guess you could say pretty fair in that fact of the matter. So I guess you could say, when you talk about it, technically there's coaches also in Stephen Silas is still a coach. I don't know if he's a coach, if anyone sees enough in him to where they would bring him in, because you got to take into consideration Luke Walton got another gig after he left Los Angeles. Got up there in Sacramento, and then that imploded, and then he left there. Hell, he took a GM with him. Him and Vlade both lost their jobs. So I don't know. We'll see. If Jason Kidd was to get fired, Jason Kidd, does he get another opportunity at any of those other places? Houston, Jason Kidd in Houston. He seems to be a managerial personality utilizing his prior player experience as a P guard in hopes to get buy-in. Okay. Recruits on offensive coordinators that want to work with Luka. Recruited offensive coordinator that wants to work with Luka. Again, Udoka. Right now, we're looking at side that we know who just came off jobs up recently. Silas, Stephen Silas, Emi Udoka, Steve Nash, Coach Nash. Where do they go? Where do they go? And which we'll see as the season starts to end. We'll get an opportunity to see how they're going or what they're going to do in those same veins, of course. Where do I want to go before we get into the nitty-gritty in reference to you true. That's true. I think that's a good point, Coach Cal. Pound for pound, don't work with all the players and systems. That's Luka James Harden 2.0. Pound. I got you, Alonzo. That makes sense. And which I thought he was going to come off that when you inserted Kyrie Irving. Maybe it's time for Luka to play off ball. Is there anywhere where Nash can go where y'all think he'll be effective, or you think Nash is just like you said, a Jason Kidd? What you're presuming they talking about Jason Kidd? Which one is it? Where do they go? The carousel begins. Taking a look at some of those coaches. Let's talk about this, right? Nash can be assistant coach for D'Antoni staff. So, as we know, the NBA playoffs is getting ready to go full frontal with this upcoming tournament. The tournament starts tonight, I believe, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then getting ready for the weekend. Of course, we already know the 8 teams in play over the course of the next 2 days. Great players don't make coaches. The expectation of what players can do is too high. That's a good point, Coach. In the East, let's start in the East. 9, correct tonight's games. Uh, oh snap! Hold on 1 second. Tonight's games, of course, as we know, we got it going on. The Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Miami Heat vying for the opportunity to play in against the second seed in their respective conferences. We know the Los Angeles Lakers tonight have a task in front of them. Is that task going to be overlooked for the simple fact that Rudy Gobert is not going to be playing? As we know, Rudy Gobert was suspended for one game after the altercation with himself and Kyle Anderson on Sunday. So they're going to be without Rudy Gobert. Is that going to make a difference? Maybe, maybe not. Do we see a possible potential where the Lakers go to AD early and often to dominate? Is Minnesota? He said Minnesota's crazy. Handle that stuff in-house. You don't suspend the center you mortgage your future on before the play-in, especially if you don't have the draft picks. So I don't think they're crazy, Coach. I'll say that they did what they had to do, especially in front of everybody. Like Rudy Gobert puts them in that position. Had this been a situation that happened in the back in the locker room when no one could have seen it, it could have just been amongst, and we would have just heard about it. Then yeah, they could have handled that in house. But it was in front of the whole world for everyone to see. Went viral, and all that type of stuff. It's unprecedented. It's unbecoming of the franchise or the organization. I think they took the right stance. Hopefully, they think that they were able to handle it for the most part and go forth and do it without any problems. Maybe they believe that he says suspend them later. It's I think they did the right thing. I mean, it's unfortunate at this. Rudy Gobert put them in that position. And this is the player, like they say, everyone says that they mortgaged, that they gave up eight picks for in a swap. He did. All right, you right. You are right, Coach. He did. He didn't come back in. He didn't play the rest of the game. So now this is that's where they're at with it. Maybe they're looking at the fact of Cat can pick up the slack with the rest of the squad. They're able to make some things happen, make some things shake. Potentially, what team shows up for the Lakers? Is the second half team, or is it the first half team that shows up for LA during this time frame? But in any case, the winner of that game will go on to the 7th seed to face off against the Memphis Grizzlies, starting on Saturday, I believe it is. Today on the opposite side of the spectrum. You know what? And that's true, Coach. That is true. And I think Lonzo said the Lakers by 15. So the Plumlee and Highland situation, I don't think it was they got in each other's face, but it was no punches thrown. I think one starts to teeter on the other. We've seen it all, and just like they talked about it, it was like it was a whole situation. But I can get what you're saying. One isn't less than another. It was a fricassee, I guess you could say, a scuffle, and that's what it is. But definitely what we know is Rudy Gobert threw a punch. That's the biggest thing. Between Plumlee and Highland, it was push, a shove, and all that type of stuff. That's what it is. You don't suspend a player on his caliber in the most meaningful game. I think the NBA impacted the suspension. Definitely the NBA impacted the suspension. It's a brand, and they have to uphold the brand. And I think that's what the biggest thing is, the fact that Gobert threw a punch as opposed to just a shove and tussle here, to where that would just been marked off or wrote off as emotions and stuff like that. So Alonzo says LA by 15. As much as I love them, I'm not going to say that. I would say LA gets the dub, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Unless depending on what they do with AD. But I don't want AD to go too hard, and then we lose AD. So it's a slippery slope. The other game tonight, the other number 7 game, however, it means we get more Cat, I'm not mad. we're definitely gonna get more Cat, and that's what the problem is. In my opinion, is we don't want a lot of Cat. The Cat is like I want him to get to. I don't want him to be the plane, the engine that powers the plane, and then we looking and it's like they can't stop the rain. That's what we go with, Coach. That we is they're trying to make the Lakers. They want to see the Lakers win. And so, what about on the other side of the spectrum where we got Miami, Jimmy Buckets, saying he doesn't care what it is. They was number one last year, took the team to a 7-round game with the Boston Celtics. If you look back at the play, they've been in the championship before. Jimmy didn't have enough in that case. Silver got McDaniels breaking his hand at the Lakers. That's what I'm saying, Coach. Like, come on, like this is what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna point it out. That we're gonna say this is what they got going on. Y'all crazy. Let us live. Let us live. We got this. And then if y'all were almost sure if we don't win, I'll be back tomorrow. But we lose that game on Thursday, y'all won't see me on Friday. And we supposed to have a couple of people supposed to have some guests on Friday. So we'll see how it goes down. Like I said, Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, Miami pulling up. Atlanta's putting up to Miami, taking on the Heat as they both jostle for the opportunity to face off against the Boston Celtics in the first round of the playoffs as a 7 seed versus a 2 seed. Does Atlanta have enough to knock off Miami? Miami was locked in. The Brooklyn Nets just escaped them. They had just enough to stay ahead. But Miami's starting to click and get it in. Reserve, as you've seen, Udonis Haslem drop 24. Jaylen Brown, injured hand. So is where do we go from here? Is Miami getting in 7 seed for sure? And then of course tomorrow, which we have an opportunity, the 9th and 10th seeds in the East, Toronto and Chicago. Coach Ryan, does Chicago get in as the 8th seed? Or correction, do they get in because they basically have to go through a gauntlet in a sense? If they're able to take care of the Toronto squad, do they have enough to knock off a Atlanta or a Miami squad just to go and do battle against Milwaukee? That's a lot to ask for in a team. But in any case, I feel like Chicago is built for it. You got 2 stars, buckets in DeRozan and Levine, Kobe White, Demonsu, Patrick Williams, like Vucevic, like there's talent there. Why is it that y'all can't right the ship? He said, no, Chicago does not get in, and I hope we blow this up ASAP. That would be a good game. Hawks have more offensively talented players. Trey will be in his bag, and defenders to run into the backs of heads on jump shots. We'll see. Miami definitely going to be a good game. And then Coach Rod says he doesn't. He's hoping you just want to go ahead and get the season over with. Who would you move if you were the GM, Coach? How would you blow it up, Coach Rod? If you was a Chicago, if you basically had an opportunity to be a GM, or let's just say a GM for the weekend, when all your decisions are final, there's no going back. What are the moves in which you're making to improve your Chicago Bulls? You say blow it up. How do you blow it up? What is your expectancy? What's going on? Just like we asked Coach Cal. Coach Cal gave us a whole rundown of who he's moving, what he's going after. So how are you shaking up the Chicago Bulls, Coach Uriah? Where do they go from here? As Coach Uriah gets that back to us. Additionally, as we know, who's already set in the playoffs, as we said earlier, for the East, Milwaukee awaits the play-in. Trade Levine. You training Levine and DeRozan? And keeping Vucevic? Wow, that's interesting. Do you think you get something back on the market for Levine and DeRozan? DeMar DeRozan. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. They want that mid-range assassin. Now, who they have to give up for him, I don't know. At this point, I think I would just rather continue to keep the party going with what we got. Oh, you know what? No, because I think, in my opinion, Lonnie Walker took a step back. Might as well take Levine for THJ in the future. Look at Coach Cal is trying to wheel and deal with Coach Ryan. What you say, Coach Ryan? Tim Hardaway Jr. for Zach LaVine. Would you make that trade and get a future pick? Oh no, give up. Would you willing to give up LaVine for Tim Hardaway Jr. and a future pick? LaVine is a fraud. Additionally, of course, like we was about to say, the Milwaukee Bucks, number 1 seed overall throughout the course of the NBA playoffs, looking for the play-in to finish. Number 4, Cleveland Cavaliers face off against the New York Knicks. Cleveland Cavaliers with home court advantage. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets will end up locking on the court. Brooklyn, like I said, took care of their business. They held it down, staying into the playoffs, even after losing their talent. We'll see how they do. We know we see that Malik Beasley is doing his thizzle out in Brooklyn, out in the East Coast. We'll see how he holds up as the go-to for the Nets. And, of course, as we stated before, the Boston Celtics will look to play against the winner of tonight's game, whether it be Miami or Atlanta. We will get a chance to see. On the opposite side of the spectrum, in the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets slowly but surely came to a halt. They was clicking. Last couple of games wasn't looking too good. But in any case, I digress. They were the number 1 team in the Western Conference. They would be looking for the end of the play-in to see who or what they play. But the Los Angeles Clippers and the Phoenix Suns, we got a little taste of what that looks like. The Clippers getting the win that basically projected them over the Golden State Warriors, putting them in the 5th spot for a run-back series versus the Phoenix Suns. Of course, you got to take into consideration, as I was talking about briefly yesterday before I had to drop off the line, none of those top 4 players played in said game versus the Clippers. And the Phoenix reserves held it down to where they almost won. There was no KD, there was no Booker, no Paul, no Aiden, and they was a problem for the Clippers. Of course, as we know for a fact, is that Paul George will not be playing in the first round series, as it was expected that he's not going to play during the first round. So basically, it's all up to Man, Powell, Westbrook, and Kawhi to get it done in this series. We'll see how that goes. Do we see finally opportunity where, you know what I want to see? I would like to see the Lakers and Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. That's what I want to see. That's what I want for my Fruit 2 front tee. The Lakers and the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. Let's get it. Battle from LA. The opportunity to go to the championship goes through LA. I'm trying to see that. Additionally, the number 3 and number 6 teams, Sacramento and Golden State. Actually, the whole division is in the playoffs. Goodness gracious. The whole division is in the playoffs. Just about. We're close to it. The whole Pacific Division in the playoffs. Sacramento Kings at the 3 seed. The Golden State Warriors at the 6 seed. In my opinion, the Golden State Warriors is the team under the radar at this point. If the New Orleans Pelicans was to get in with the possibility of getting a Zion back at some potentially, I think they could be an under the radar team. I think they can be a whole problem for the Denver Nuggets if that is the case, possibly going forth. As depending on what happened with tonight's game, it can be an opportunity depending on if the New Orleans Pelicans can knock off the Oklahoma City Thunder in their 9-10 game, get in and knock off let's say the Minnesota Timberwolves and go to play against the Denver Nuggets. That could be an opportunity for Zion to have a little more time to recover, to be able to pose a problem for the most part. But Sacramento, Golden State, I think Golden State is the sleeper in this conference currently. And then Memphis and the Los Angeles Lakers, if they are able to win, if not, or the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Memphis Grizzlies, in which we discussed on here not too long ago, where we talked about which would be the better matchup for the Lakers. Would it be the Memphis Grizzlies or would it be the Denver Nuggets if they had, while they was going back and forth? If they couldn't get into the 6th seed, what would have been better, the 7th or the 8th seed? At this point, it doesn't make a difference unless, like I said, the Lakers was to lose to Minnesota tonight and just goes through and defeats whoever wins the 9-10 game and then puts them in the 8th seed. Coach Cal, if Ty Lue can win this series, he will have stamped his time in LA, as he's indicated he'll probably leave after this season. That could be another one, another coach added to the fray going forth. It could be another coach added. We talked about KC yesterday. What nothing was said in reference to McDaniels and him punching the wall, that aggression. You know what? They need to put punching dummies, punching bags on the sidelines or in the tunnels of home games and stuff like that, or taking, because that's definitely a situation to where he shouldn't have done that. Lakers match up better with Memphis. Grizzlies don't have enough scoring. You know what, Coach? I can agree with you, because we no longer is it a 1-game scenario. Now it's a win the series. You need 4 dubs to sit up to go on, move on. Zion needs to go to an University League for a year and win him off that Cajun food. Go on Shark Tank and do an interview with Coach Coop. Why is Lonzo on you, Coach Cal? Goodness gracious. Oh my God. It's like, hey, why are you here? I think I can turn your team around. Imagine that. Oh my God, that would be priceless. So now the play-in. In your opinion, has the play-in done what it need? Has the play-in done what it needs to be done? Has the play-in made you all, or made us all forget the 7 to 18, number 7, number 18? If the play-in wasn't, it was no longer enacted, then we'll basically be looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves against the Denver Nuggets and the Los Angeles Lakers against the Memphis Grizzlies. And then, of course, on the other side of the spectrum, we'd be looking at the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics and the Atlanta Hawks versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you think, outside of adding some spice, do you think the play-in has done what it has needed to do over the course of the years? Like, when you look back at it, we know the play-in basically started in 2021, just 2 years ago. 2020, where they had basically the only one was where the Blazers were the only team that they was able to get into, and the Blazers beat the Grizzlies 126-122, and then the Lakers went on to genuinely sweep the Blazers to go 4-1, right? Then after that, the following year, the play-in produced the Celtics as a 7th seed versus the Wizards as the 8th seed, and then the Pacers at the 9th seed, is the Hornets as the 10th seed, in which the Pacers throttle up the Hornets. The Celtics get the 18-point win over the Wizards. only for the Wizards, in which then the Wizards beat this, lost to the Celtics, and went on to play against the Pacers, and brought up the Pacers, and then they went on for the most part. But then the Wizards end up losing to the 76ers 4-1. And then the Nets end up beating the Celtics 4-1. Of course, from the West Coast, the Lakers got in as the 7th seed, just beating the Warriors by 3 points. The Grizzlies knocked off the Spurs by 4 points. And then, the Grizzlies beat the Warriors in overtime to get in, but then the Lakers got beat 4-2 by the Suns, and the Jazz got beat the Grizzlies 4-1 to go on to proceed on. So then, of course, now we're looking at last but not least, last year's play-in basically pitted the Timberwolves against the Clippers, in which the Timberwolves won. The Nets and the Cavaliers in the East, where the Nets were victorious over the Cavaliers. Then the second game, of course, the Hawks faced off against the Hornets, in which the Hornets was throttled 132 to 103. The Pelicans beat the Spurs 113 to 110, in which the Hawks ended up defeating the Cavaliers 107 to 101. The Pelicans beat the Clippers 105 to 104. But then, in all things, the Heat knocked off the Hawks. It wasn't a contest. The Celtics smashed through the Nets. The Suns ended up beating the Pelicans 4-2, and the Grizzlies beat the Wolves. The Grizzlies beat the Wolves 4-2. This year is different because all of the playing teams have legitimate rosters. Okay, bleep the Wolves have sabotaged themselves with McDaniels taking out his hand and them choosing slow-mo over Gobert. So you're basically saying we should see a better matchup amongst the teams for the most part, at least for one of the sides. Coach Rod was saying if you remove the Dallas Mavericks just did, believe the play-in has been beneficial to the end of the season, being fun to watch. Of course, Zion killing them stripping Grizzlies. We'll see how it goes, man. Do y'all think Zion comes back? Does Zion come back for the because potentially he could be out 2 games. Not completely. Teams will still rest their players once they were in or out of the playoffs. You bought the play-in and then balance out the ping pong ball. So those teams were not rested players. The 7 to 8 won't the cake walks, no matter how it's slicing. Okay. Correct. I'll give you that, Coach. You're very correct. Again, do y'all see Zion being able to come back for this series? We know Pete come back for these playoffs. We know he's not going to be in the play-in. If they are able to win, then they get the series versus the Denver Nuggets. If he's able to continue, if the Pelicans are able to win, does Zion play again this year, or do you think it's a wrap for him and it's just going to have to let it lie where it lay? Additionally, do we see PG for the next series? Meaning, does Phoenix get taken out and we see PG for the next season, later on the season in the second round? We already know Milwaukee's going to be without Chris Middleton, possibly. Can Milwaukee win a championship without Chris Middleton? You have to eliminate the top 10 Texans now to stop what the Mavs did. Playing game. Could there be a draw for Zion at this point? Let's say he does. Let's say they do look at potentially moving him. I mean, his salary is hellacious. But let's say, just for the sake of the conversation, which Coach Rod was just talking about, whether he's good or not. Let's say if on the strength of what he has been, the Pelicans decide we're going to move on from Zion. There could be a top tier talent that they're looking at. You know, my man from where he's a senior, about to say dude from Purdue, but he's a senior, so he's going to be in the draft this year. Is it a situation where I'm all, for me, I don't know. For me, it's all about what I can get back. And so I take a look at some of these things. I'm like, yo, I understand, saying he's a darling. I think it'll be easier to move on from a Zion Williamson as opposed to a Damian Lillard for the most part, especially when Dame has given so much to when you was trash. Zion, for the most part, he is a talent, but he hasn't been there. So at this point, it's like, what do I do? Do I continue? I think Zion is done. He greeted that player in the tunnel looking like a super heavyweight. Not playing weight. Okay, I see y'all, but both of Coach Alonzo and Coach Urias talking about. And when you look at it, what could have been? You could have had New Orleans could have had R.J. Barrett. New Orleans could have had Ja Morant. Can you imagine Ja Morant in the Big Easy? What that would have looked like? No, they can't buy him out. It's definitely can't buy him out. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll go ahead and let him continue to play and continue to pay him before they try to buy him out, even though that would be cheaper. They have to deal with him unless they can find someone willing to take his salary for 20 games a year. He's definitely got to. I don't know who would be the person, who's the whisperer to basically get him. I mean, I wonder, has he engaged with Shaq? Although Shaq wasn't even though Shaq was a big body, but Shaq wasn't as agile and as Zion Williamson is. Who does he talk to in reference to getting this under control? Especially when, like you said, during the offseason, like he gets the injury and then what is he doing? Like, is he walking? I mean, I know it's a hamstring injury, so they want to keep him. But is he just eating? Like, it's got to be some other snacks he could be taking. I wonder, is a situation where he's smashing all the Debbie cakes, he on the wrap snacks, etouffee, all that type of stuff. I wonder where Zion goes from here. Correct, and that's the point, Coach, and that's what I'm saying. Zion was a problem when they had him there. It's like, is he that polarizing where they basically went from being in the top 4 of the division to a play-in in the division? What is Brandon Ingram? Is he not that dude? Like, we act like we talk about Zion. Brandon Ingram plays for this squad too. So since he can't play basketball. Okay, Charles Barkley. He's only 22. Need to give him saucers for dinner. He has time to steal the game, change the playoffs. I'm with you, Coach Alonzo. I'm not giving up on it either. I think but is us not giving up on him as a perspective of we think he has something in him may be different from not giving up on the organization not giving up on him. They might be heading like it's time to casino as a business and send him on his way. See what you can get back from him. He said Barkley's tried to tell people he's just a cheeseburger away from being the difference liability in his career. He said a saucer, like serving portions. Oh, I mean, we'll see. Like, it's unfortunate. Like, he's definitely a talent without a doubt. I mean, we can't take that from him. I don't think anyone can take that from him. But it's like the other stuff, the tangible stuff, in which is like he's not. What are they doing with his weight? Are they how they managing it? What are they doing to managing it? Like, there's a bunch of questions. Like, I think it comes into play, in which you gotta find this out and see, like, what is it? Is it a mental thing? Is it being in the Big Easy? But for the most part, you can go anywhere and probably get the same thing. If he's in Philly, it's probably cheesesteaks. In Cali, it's tacos. It just matters. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you get somewhere where it's just all seafood delicacy. Is the biggest thing. In which let's go to Utah, Zion, Minnesota, Rudy for Zion or something like that. They got a good thing in Valanciunas anyway. So, or even the people who are there, Valanciunas, like, why aren't they talking to these people? Like, bruh, this is what we need you to do. He's undersized to prolong his career. He has to get thin because he has to retain his mobility and athleticism. Jumping high at that weight, hitting the floor just painful. But it's a slippery slope. He has to. I think Coach Kyle, he has to be in between because one of the reasons and why he is so sought after, he's seen to be this individual, is due to that size. So, what is the proper playing size for him to keep that dominance and that agility and that ability? I don't know where that would be at right now. What was he listed coming in as? Let me see something. What was he listed coming in as? Basketball Reference. Bear with me for 1 second. Oh. Let's get his 6'6", 284 pounds. Can't keep letting the trainers and dietitians, Weston John doing. He needs to take ownership. True, I believe you, Coach. I agree with you. Ownership or whatever case like that. 6'6", he came in. I don't know if this is playway where he came in as, but 6'6", well, probably currently 6'6", 284 pounds. $284, so pushing 300 potentially. That's got to be, yeah, definitely football vibes, without a doubt. In which it might change, man. Like he said, like Alonzo said, they're not giving up on him yet. He still has an opportunity. He still has a way. Get down to 240, 245, more muscle. Okay, develop a better jump shot. Let me see what Shaq was. Let me take a look at that for you right quick, Anthony. Shaquille O'Neal, during that time frame, 7'1", 325. So that's five inches and roughly 45 pounds. 5 inches, 45 pounds, 9 pounds an inch. Difference of 9 pounds an inch. Coach Cal said get him to 240, 245. What was Barkley's? Even though Charles Barkley during his heyday, 6'6", 252. So he's 32 pounds heavier than Charles Barkley. He's 32 inches. 32 pounds heavier than Charles Barkley. Well, if we believe that, if that's what he is now, that's what he is. 32 inches heavier than Barkley. Let's try to think about some players that are in or around his stature, for the most part. Let's see what Robert Traylor is versus Tractor Trailer was 6'8", 284 pounds, so he was 2 inches taller, same height, same weight. So yeah, so it should come about. It should come out eventually. So one of the things that came out yesterday, which was interesting, a couple of things real quick, is which I didn't get a chance to like really tap into or talk about or engage and speak on is Clutch Points. If y'all ever follow Clutch Points, they be having some witty conversations and engagements. So they was talking to Kevin Garnett, right? And Kevin Garnett came up with what he think is the unstoppable five. If he put this squad together, or had this been a squad, it would be unstoppable. And he was wondering who would beat this. So Kevin Garnett's starting five was Magic Johnson at the 1, Kobe Bryant at the 2, Kevin Durant at the 3, Garnett at the 4, and Wilt Chamberlain at the 5. What is that opponent? First and foremost, is that opponent starting 5? And what team could be constructed to take care of that starting 5? Which I think I could come up with one right off the top of my head. But is that what team roster 5 players could you put together that would beat that? I think it's actually beatable. I think they actually would be beatable easily to put together some people to beat them. You got Giannis Antetokounmpo's, you still got Shaq, you got MJ that's still out there, LeBron James. It's yeah, I think you could put together. What? Are you serious, Anthony? You can't be serious, bro. You trying to create content, right? You can't be serious saying there's no team that's out there that's stopping that, right? I think there's plenty of teams out there that can stop that. I think he left so many on the board, bro. I look at it as even if you was to sit up and put LeBron as a 1, he matches Magic. Of course, Jordan at the 2, Shaq at the 5. Then you're looking at the only thing you're looking at is who you're bringing in as a 4, and as a 4 and a 3, in which Giannis Antetokounmpo as a 4, and then as the 3, someone like Scottie Pippen maybe. So that's LeBron James, Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Shaquille O'Neal. He said, "I take KG out for Dirk." But yeah, I think that's definitely a stoppable team. I think you could put together some that beat that even in a 7 game, definitely without a doubt. I think that could have been a little more potent. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. You got other people for the most part, but yeah. Additionally, another one that came to mind is this year, a historic precedence was met as the Splash Brothers or Splash Trio in Golden State dropped the most 3-pointers made by a trio in a single season, with over 783 pointers made between Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Jordan Poole. Poole leading. Klay Thompson leading the field with 301 3-pointers made. Steph Curry 273, and Jordan Poole with 214. Of course, 788 3-pointers on the year, the most by a trio in a single season. And even with that, for the most part, they couldn't keep pace in the West. I guess they finished as a 6th spot. But I guess you take into consideration Steph was out for the majority of the season. Klay was out for the majority. Had some time out as well. They both spent time on the bench due to injuries. But that to set up and have, say Steph stays healthy, they clear 850. Oh yeah, they go. Yeah. Or even Klay, any one of them, they would have did that. So they got more to come. I think, of course, as you get a little older, as Steph gets older, I think he's still got a lot in them left to where he's going to continue to be able to get the separation to get them threes off. But at some point, he's going to start getting contested, and then we're going to see what he does when his 3-pointers are contested, when his shot is more so contested. But he's going to clearly get a bunch more before that happens. Or as long as, yes, he's the shooter, but as long as you got someone like Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole that's on the floor, you only can do so much to guard them. It's just a matter of picking who you want to stop and lock down. Steph is probably the more automatic one, but of course Steph tends to sit back and comes down, or who's going to continue chasing him. Yeah, they finished 6th because they can't defend and rebound as well as they used to. It was, but was Dre hitting? Was Dre hitting 3-pointers? Was Dre that assassin? I don't think he was that assassin. They got a different. They have a different look with Poole, and I wonder, does that potentially what they have coming up in the draft? You don't know where they'll be at in the draft. Yes, I believe he did. And this year, Klay Thompson in the limited role is at 300. So by the time it's all said and done, they're going to be that trio or that duo is going to be is going to have the books put up on the shelf and collecting dust before anyone even opens that. But of course, we know how the NBA goes. It's just going to be a matter of time before they actually get back into it to where someone's going to be pushing that. But what we know, I think what's going to happen is Steph's 3-point record is going to be untouched. I don't think that's going to, or at least in our lifetime, we might not see it. The Warriors are a powerhouse. Like I said, Anthony, I think they're definitely an overlooked team currently at this point. They get Wiggins back. As soon as Wiggins gets to clicking back into it again, they're going to definitely be a problem. So it would be ideal for the Sacramento Kings to catch them before Wiggins gets back into the groove of things. Because if he gets back in and he's clicking like he did last year, they're going to be hard to stop. We're going to be looking at yet another championship possibly, or a hell of a series between whomever they're playing. Let me see. So where we at? Almost out of here. So I can let y'all get on about y'all day. But I can't do it without getting back into the fact of the Baltimore Ravens are doing what their best they can to secure. I got them losing the Bucks in the finals, banking on Wiggins getting back to Ruben by Game 3. Oh yeah, they get what I think. What's going to be a unfortunate situation is they don't have. Well, you know what? The Bucks are a better team right now. I think so. I think that's a good point, Coach Cal. Well, especially when you look at the fact of Bobby Portis has started to do his thing. Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen's coming more into his role. So the fact that they'll be missing that Chris Middleton, they brung in Jay Crowder. So that's a difference maker in a sense. So I think they have enough pieces that can account for missing Middleton this time that will be effective for them in the playoffs. It's just a matter, can they make it through the Eastern Conference before they even get to a East team that could put a Western team that could potentially be smaller. So I can see that potentially. But like I was saying, moving into a conversation, getting ready to get into this and talk about these the NFL of one particular topic we wanted to touch in is, does the signing of Odell Beckham Jr. make wet the whistle or wet the taste buds for Lamar Jackson to go ahead and decide, okay, I'm going to sign with the Baltimore Ravens? With that, you got Sale, got Duvernay, Bateman. They've added Aguilar. Now they've added Beckham. They have J.K. Dobbins in the backfield. Excuse me. Still has Mark Andrews. Is that enough to basically have Lamar come back to play on that franchise tag? 1 year, $32 million to play, and then show that he is that dude deserving of what that money when you show that he have weapons. Is that a possibility, or is it? I see Anthony is like, hell no, that's not it. Hell no, he will go. Additionally, do you think there's a blackball going on with Lamar Jackson, or is you thinking it's just people not looking to pay that type of price for him and think they have enough of a pretty good draft class coming out? Think that is enough to get to go forth from there. As I said, mentioned earlier, the NFL draft goes on 2023 2000 draft goes on April 27th through the 29th, same time as the National Military Basketball Tournament. So it'd be a lot of sporting going on. during this time frame. So, of course, be ready to tap in, look forward to that. If he plays this year, they're going to tag him again. They can, but they got to pay more money. So it's just it depends on what they're willing to play. But I think if he ends up playing this year, it plays on a show it deal to where he gets the opportunity to put forth the efforts and show that he can be pretty good. Either one, they're going to pay him, or two, someone's going to be looking like, depending on what other teams is going to be looking like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and go after this guy, especially if he comes out with another MVPs year, whether he wins it or not. I think someone's going to be willing to take that that bet on him and go ahead and say it with the chest and put the bag out there to come off those picks, especially depending on what's coming out in the next couple of years when you talking about draft choices. That's definitely going to be one of those things. Oh yeah, definitely, and everyone understand that. It's either he's going to make it or he's not. He's not even going to push it to where people are going to want to pay. Like you say, yesterday's price is not today's price, and they're going to understand that. I think it's all calculated. In state is the Baltimore Ravens control those rights in which they can do whatever they want at the end of it. They can always play possum and act like they're going to do something and pay him, or say that he's too rich for their blood and go back, and which I don't know. Of course, they could be buying their time. Depending on what Caleb Williams does this year, we can assure that he's probably going to come out in the draft this year after playing this and foregoing his senior season with USC. After this year, if he has another Heisman Trophy season or was to win another Heisman Trophy, we're going to see that. So it just depends. It's going to really put you'll see how it goes going forth. So, and then if they might have a situation to where they want to put themselves in a position to get a Caleb Williams, or if he doesn't do that well, he still might be a challenge, which they might be like, we can do something with him and look to get him. So it's possibilities that still sit out there, which we'll see how that goes. But of course, I'm gonna go ahead and get out here. It's just a little bit 30 minutes earlier. I greatly appreciate y'all rocking with me today. Gotta get in. We start softball today, so I gotta get to the office early to take a look at some things, get some schedules out and get some field set up and all that type of stuff. Be sure to tap in. I'm here tomorrow. You already know 09 always the start time. We call fall in and y'all get to your positions and lock them heels. This has been your boy Trey. Greatly appreciate y'all rocking with this morning. We'll see where we're at. Lakers, Minnesota, Miami, Atlanta. We'll be here to talk about it tomorrow. Enjoy y'all. Stay. Be blessed. Love someone. I'm out of here. Peace.